diagram business. All right, so here we go, diagramming. So first up, we're talking how to diagram prepositional phrases. So prepositional phrases are diagrammed just like adjectives and adverbs. Okay, remember when we diagram adjectives and adverbs, we put them underneath what? You guys remember? So we've got our main line right here. Okay, when we diagram adjectives and adverbs, they go underneath what? Does anybody remember? Yeah, Aiden?
The word they modify.
Yeah, perfect. The word they modify. Okay, well remember when we talked about prepositional phrases, they function as adjectives or adverbs. So we're going to just put the whole prepositional phrase underneath the word that it's modifying. And remember, we were practicing that with our prep phrases by drawing an arrow to whatever word it was modifying. All right, here. There we go. So the preposition that begins the phrase, okay, so the preposition is put on the slanted line underneath whatever word it's modifying. Okay, so this line right here shows how we diagram prepositional phrases. Kind of like an angled L, right? Like a slanted L. I can't do that. My thumb doesn't go that far enough. But it's like a slanted L. So the preposition will go on the slanted part of the line. The object of the preposition, so the noun that follows the preposition, goes on this horizontal portion of the line. Okay, and then any other modifiers that you have, so remember a lot of times when we have a prepositional phrase, you'll have words in between the preposition and the object of the preposition. So any modifiers you have will just go right underneath the object. It's kind of making sense? Did you guys learn how to do this in middle school? Okay, I'm seeing some head nodding. Yeah, I think that you did. So hopefully this is just a review for you. All right, so let's take a look at this sentence here. Now, do you guys remember last time we were diagramming, what did I have you do before you even put your stuff into a diagram? I told you to do what? Malachi? Say it louder, I can hear you. So like label it, right? Like figure out what all your components are. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Hold this up here. 2 seconds. All right, so before we even plug this into the chart, we're going to label it. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's so far up. Okay, well, I'm going to label it below it. Everything's fine, guys. It's fine. I totally did not get waken up 4 times last night by my cat. It's fine. Everything's fine.
You got woken up by a cat also.
4 times, Tina. 4 times. I'm so tired. All right, so let's take a look at this sentence. The steep slopes of the mountains are covered with forest. So, whatever works for you. Okay, if you think that it's easier to find prepositional phrases first, go ahead and do that, and you can just kind of put them in parentheses. If you think it's easier to find the subject and the verb of the sentence first, you can do that. For me, I like to find the prepositional phrases first, because then it narrows down where my subject and my verb can be. Because remember, your subject and your verb will never be inside of a prepositional phrase. So let's take a look at this. Do we see any prepositional phrases in that sentence? Creighton. Yeah, of the mountains. So I'm just going to put of the mountains just in parentheses here. Okay, of the mountains is a prep phrase. Do we see any other ones in this sentence? Any others? Yeah, Aiden? Yep, with forest. I know my thing is kind of blocking it here, but you should see it on your paper. With forest is also a prep phrase. Any others? I see a couple people shaking their heads no. Okay, perfect. So then we have to figure out what the subject of the sentence is. So Cooper, what is this sentence about? What's the subject? Malachi. Say it one more time. Slopes. Yes, slopes is the subject. Typically I write it above, but obviously I don't have room, so we're just going to put it right there. So I just mark it S for subject. All right, then we got to find the verb. So what's our verb? Marcus. Nope. Careful. Santi? Close. We got part of it. Logan?
Are covered.
Are covered. You got it. We got a verb phrase here. Okay, so that's our verb. Okay, so are is our helping verb. Covered is our action verb. So then, Marcus, if Steve is not our verb, what do we think it's doing? There you go. Modifying slope. So remember, we just draw a little arrow to the word that it's modifying. How about the? What is the doing? Go ahead, Marcus.
Also modifying slope.
Yep. Well, slopes. Also modifying slopes. Yes. All right. Now, we have one more thing that we have to do here before we plug it into the diagram. We have to figure out what our prepositional phrases are modifying. Okay, because remember, prepositional phrases, they act like adjectives and adverbs, so they're always going to be modifying another word in the sentence. So let's start with of the mountains. What word in the sentence is of the mountains modifying? What word is it giving us more information about? Lauren? Slopes. It's telling us what kind of slopes, right? It's answering that adjective question, what kinds? Nice job. Okay, how about with forest? What word in the sentence is with forest modifying? Malachi. Well, no, not quite. Okay, not quite. Now remember, Malachi, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, adjective phrases are always going to directly follow the word that they're modifying. Okay, so if with forest was modifying mountains, it should come right behind it. Okay, because adjective phrases always follow the word they modify. And if you're modifying a noun like mountains, then it has to be an adjective phrase. Marcus, what do you think? Are covered. Right? It's telling us to what extent they're covered. Well, they're covered with forest. All right, so now what we need to do, you guys, is we need to plug this into our diagram. Okay, so tell me, what's going to go right here on our diagram? Shout it out. I don't care who says it. Shout it out. What goes here? Slopes. Okay, the subject always goes on our main line. Okay, remember this is our main line. The subject always goes on the left side, so we're going to put slopes there. Okay, what goes over here on the other side of our main line? Are covered, the verb. Beautiful. And remember, we always separate the subject and the verb with that vertical line going straight through the main line. Okay, then we got to plug in the rest of our components. You can see where I've got the prepositional phrases, right? So these slanted L lines are for the prepositional phrases. I don't honestly remember what order all of this is going to show up in. Let's assume this is the next one. What goes right here, guys? The, and we're going to make sure it's capitalized. Oh! Nope. Okay, I started with the prepositional phrase. I can't remember what order it was in. All right, so we're starting with this prepositional phrase. So we always put the preposition on the slanted part. So then what goes here? Marcus, you're crushing it. Yes, mountains. Is there anybody else out there besides Marcus? All right, and then what goes here?
No.
The. Marcus, you're rocking today. Love it, man. Somebody had their coffee this morning. Okay, do you see that? So we always do the preposition on the slanted part, the object of the preposition on the horizontal part, and then anything that comes in between will go on a line or lines underneath. All right, I'm going to guess that we're going over here next. So what's going right here, guys? No, other than Marcus. Marcus has to be quiet. What goes right here, everyone? There you go. See, now they're alive. You were just carrying them. All right, and then what goes here, everyone? Forest. Beautiful. Okay, and then what goes here? And then what goes here? No, we already have slopes there. What goes here? Okay, I have one error on this slide. Does anybody see it? I just noticed it. Yeah, okay, what's my error? Yeah, slopes is capitalized. Whoops. Okay, that should not be capitalized because remember, only the first word in the sentence is capitalized, which is the. Okay, so make sure you get slower to that. Okay. Do we feel like we got this? It's pretty straightforward, right? As long as you guys lay out your sentence like this, and like I said, I know it may seem tedious right now because you're comfortable with prepositions, you're comfortable with these basic parts of speech, but as we get further down the line, and especially next year, you guys labeling your sentence is going to be so extremely helpful to you. So just trust my judgment on that one, okay? All right, now.
You're going too fast.
I'm not going too fast. There's a video recording. You can watch it. All right, so compound prepositional phrase. Okay, we can have more than one object of a preposition. So if we have a preposition that has more than one object, all that we do is we split that horizontal line, kind of like that, okay? So let's take a look at this sentence, let's label it, and let's see if we can figure out where everything goes. So first of all, let's find our prepositional phrase or phrases. What do we got here? Where's our prepositional phrase for this sentence? Lauren? Yeah, without food and water. Okay, without is our preposition. Food and water are our objects of the preposition. Okay? All right. Subject. Who or what is the sentence about? Malachi. They. Verb. Logan. Nice. Another verb phrase. We're in prison. All right. That's everything. Now we just have to figure out what is this prep phrase modifying. Kylie. Say it one more time, sorry. Yeah, we're in prison. It's modifying the verb, right? It's telling us how they were in prison or to what extent they were in prison. Okay, we've got everything labeled. We've got it all ready to go. Now we just got to plug it in. Everybody, what goes here? They. What goes here? We're in prison. What goes here? Without. What goes here? Food. And don't forget to put your and on the dotted line connecting them. And then, of course, water goes here. So that's how you would do a compound object of the preposition. Okay? All right, moving on. What is this one? Prepositional phrase modifying a prepositional phrase. Oh, this one's fun. Okay, here we go. So, let's label it. Prepositional phrases, let's mark them. What do we got? We got on the mountain. Do we have any more? In a castle. Beautiful. Subject, who or what is the sentence about?
Princess.
Princess. Verb. Live. The is modifying what? Princess. Okay. In a castle. What is that modifying? Yeah, it's telling us where she lived, right? It's modifying lived. How about on the mountain? What is that modifying? Malachi. Castle. Right? It's telling us which castle it is. Well, it's the castle on the mountain. Do you have a question?
No, I have
What is it?
a
No, it's spelled right. All right, now we have everything labeled. Let's plug it into our diagram. Just shout it out. What goes here? Princess. What goes here? Lived. I don't know what comes next. Oh, that comes next. Okay, what goes here? In. What goes here? Castle. What goes here? What goes here? Who's touching it? Who's scratching it? What goes here? Everyone! Everyone! And then the. Okay, and then of course we have to put our last the over there. Okay, so do you guys see how that works? You kind of get that cascading effect. Wherever your arrow is pointing, that's the word you should diagram your prep phrase underneath. Okay, so since we have the arrow from this prep phrase pointing to live, that prep phrase goes underneath live. Since we have an arrow from this prep phrase pointing to castle, this prep phrase goes underneath castle. Okay, you guys all with me on that? Is that making sense? No. Okay. For now, for the sake of time, because I want to make sure we get through everything, we're going to skip the practice. If we have time at the end of class, we'll come back to it and we'll kind of do it together and make sure that we all understand. But for now, I want to move on to talking about how we diagram appositive phrases. Okay, so here are the appositive phrase notes. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, what you guys are going to do is you put your appositive, now this is the tricky part. Okay, when we have an appositive phrase, we always have a one-word appositive in the phrase. It'll be the subject or the pronoun that is the main component of the appositive phrase. Just that one word appositive is going to go in parentheses behind whatever word it's giving more information about. Typically, it'll be the subject or the object of the preposition. Okay? Does that make sense? So the one word appositive of the appositive phrase goes in parentheses behind whatever word it's giving us more information about or modifying. Now, when we have an appositive phrase, Okay, we have more than one word in the phrase. But typically, the rest of the words in that phrase are just adjectives adding more information to the appositive. So any adjectives of the appositive are just going to be diagrammed directly underneath the appositive that they're a part of the phrase of. Is that making any sense? I feel like I'm not making any sense today. Okay, I'm so tired. All right, well, let's look at an example. Okay, this example will make a lot more sense. So, let's start with prepositional phrases. Okay, let's mark our prepositional phrases because that's what we've been doing and we're comfortable with it. Do we have any prepositional phrases in this sentence? Aiden. From T. Okay. What else? Lauren. Near Sioux Falls. We have 2 prep phrases. Okay, beautiful. All right, now we have to figure out, do we have any, no, let's figure out subject and verb first. Okay, so who or what is the sentence about? Bobby. Bobby's our subject. Okay, Bobby's our subject. What's the verb? Malachi? Comes. Okay, so we got our subject, we got our verb. Now we still have some stuff here. So we got to figure out what the rest of this stuff is doing. I have a couple of positive phrases. Okay, our new classmate. Notice how it's inside of the parentheses. So that's functioning as a positive phrase. Now what I do to mark a positive phrases is I'll just underline it so I know that, hey, this is one of positive phrase. But now what we have to do, guys, is we have to figure out what word in that appositive phrase is the single word of positive. So what is the noun or pronoun in that phrase that is the single word renaming Bobby? I kind of just gave you the second part of that answer. Marcus? Classmate. Okay, it's the only noun that's in this phrase. So this is the appositive. So I just mark it like APP. Because that, you guys, is going to be the word that goes in parentheses behind Bobby. Because this phrase is renaming Bobby. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of? Okay. All right. Then we have another appositive phrase. What's our second appositive phrase in this sentence? Paige? Keep going. Yeah, a town near Sioux Falls. You guys, you can have prepositional phrases inside of an appositive phrase. Okay, now we know that it's part of the appositive phrase because of the comma placement. Okay, your appositive phrases are always going to be inside of punctuation, either inside of commas if they're in the middle of the sentence like this one, or if they're at the end of the sentence like that one, you'll have a comma and then of course a period at the end of the sentence. So you can have prep phrases be a part of your appositive phrase. Is your mind blown up yet? I know, it's crazy, right? All right, so let's figure out, what is this appositive phrase? Well, no, let's first figure out what is the appositive in this phrase. A town near Sioux Falls, South Dakota. What is the single word noun appositive in that phrase that's doing the renaming? Aiden?
No.
Town. Okay, so town is the appositive. So town is what we're going to put in parentheses behind the word it's modifying. So what word is this whole appositive phrase modifying? A town near Sioux Falls, South Dakota is renaming what other word in the sentence? Logan? T. It's renaming T. Okay, so we're renaming an object of a prepositional phrase. This one's complicated. Okay, do you see how the labeling helps? When we get a more complicated sentence like this, where you've got lots of different phrases that are all doing their own thing, labeling it is going to help you figure out how everything is working. Okay, so always label. Now we have a couple other things we need to label here, because we haven't drawn arrows for our prepositional phrases. So we don't yet know what our prepositional phrases are going to go under. So let's start with from T. From T is modifying what? What word in the sentence is from T giving us more information about? Chance, what do you think?
On the positive.
Not quite. Marcus?
Question?
Nope. Okay? Comes. You got to use those questions. Okay? Because we can use the question where. It's telling us where he comes. Okay? He comes from T. Answers that adverb question where. How about near Sioux Falls, South Dakota? What is that prepositional phrase modifying? Go ahead, Marcus. Yeah. Okay, it's telling us what kind of town we're talking about. Well, it's a town near Sioux Falls, South Dakota. All right, now we just have to plug it in. So, take it step by step. Okay, you know in your diagram where all of your components go. Just take it slowly. So start with your subject. Your subject goes here, which is what? Bobby. Now, we have an appositive that's renaming Bobby. Okay, so in parentheses next to Bobby, we're going to put what word? Classmate. Because that is the single word appositive in that sentence. Okay? It's the single word appositive in that phrase, renaming Bobby. So classmate would go in parentheses next to Bobby. Now, what the heck? What do we do with these other two words that are part of that appositive phrase? Malachi, what do we do with them? Yeah, but what do we do with them? I know what they are, but what do we do with them? Where do they go? Like on the diagram, where do we put them? Yeah, are and new. Where do we put them on the diagram? No, not under the subject. Marcus?
Under consonant, appositive.
We put it under classmate, the appositive. Okay, because they're part of the appositive phrase, you have to make sure that any other components, any other adjectives in your appositive phrase are diagrammed underneath the appositive. I know that's what you were probably trying to say about that, right? All right, so they go right there. All right, nice job. Now we need our verb, right? What's our verb? Verb is cubs. Do we have any appositives that are modifying our verb? Let me ask it again. I need a nod from everybody, either yes or no. Do we have any appositive phrases modifying our verb? No, and you never will. Because appositive phrases have to only modify nouns or pronouns. Your verb is never going to be a noun or a pronoun because it's going to be a verb. Okay? So you should never, ever, ever have an appositive behind the verb on the main line. Ever. Well, what do we have that is modifying the verb? What part of speech do we have modifying the verb? Logan.
Prepositional phrase.
Yeah, we've got a prepositional phrase. From T is modifying our verb. So we need to diagram that prepositional phrase underneath our verb comes. So it'll go right here on our slanted L line. What word goes here, Logan? From. And then here?
T.
T. All right, now, we've got an appositive phrase modifying T. Okay, we've already identified our single word appositive. So what is going to go in parentheses right next to T? Town. Okay, town is our single word appositive. We already identified it. Modifying T, so it goes in parentheses next to it. Okay, now you guys can tell on the diagram what comes next, right? But we said that we had a prepositional phrase that was modifying our appositive. So that prepositional phrase has to be diagrammed underneath that single word appositive town, which is why we have that slanted L right there. Okay, and then we've got one more little line because we have one more word in that appositive phrase that we haven't labeled yet, right? So what word goes on this teeny tiny little line? Okay, right? All right, what word goes here, everyone? Near, and what goes here? Sioux Falls. Okay, why is it not like Sioux and then Falls underneath it? Marcus. Because it's a place, it's a proper noun, it's capitalized. Okay, so it's functioning as one noun. Do you guys feel like you understand this? Label your sentences. Okay, that is the best advice that I can give you. Just like in math where we show our work, okay, in English when we're diagramming, we also need to show our work. It's going to stop you from making silly mistakes. Now, I know there are probably a lot of you sitting out there and you're like, oh, I hate showing my work in math. It's so stupid because I can do it all in my head. And I know that there are some of you that think the same thing about diagramming. Oh, I hate showing my work. It's so stupid. I can do it all in my head. I get that, but what labeling your sentence is going to do, okay, what showing your work with diagramming is going to do is it's going to stop you from making silly mistakes. We're human. We all make mistakes. Okay, I don't care if you're like the master of diagramming. Show your work. Okay, show your work. I promise it'll help. We have 6 more minutes. I think we have time to do one practice from the prepositional practice and one practice from the appositive practice. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. We're going to go back to the prepositional practice first, right there. Let's just dive right in and do number 3. Okay, so on the prepositional practice, I want you guys to try number 3. Before you diagram it, label it. Okay, label the components of the sentence and then plug it into a diagram. If you finish number 3 and you want to do some more practice, feel free to go on to number 1 and 2 for that prepositional phrase practice. All right, we're going to talk about this one. So let's show our work first. Let's label it. Okay, let's start with our prep phrases. Any prep phrases in number 3? All right, Maddie, what have we got? Across the street. Other Maddie. What else? Into the store. We've got 2 prep phrases here. All right, who or what is the sentence about? What's our subject? Ben, what's our subject of number 3? Tourist. Diana, what's our verb? Wandered. Okay, the is modifying what, everyone? Tourist. Okay, now we have to figure out what are these 2 prep phrases modifying. Let's start with across the street. What is across the street modifying? What other word in the sentence? Wandered. Okay, use your questions. Because if we said it was modifying tourist, it would have to be right next to it. Because it would have to be an adjective phrase. And remember, adjective phrases are always going to be right next to the word they're modifying. Okay, this one is modifying wandered. It's telling us where we wandered. It's answering one of those adverb questions, right? All right, how about into the store? What is that phrase modifying? Logan? Also wandered. Also answering that where question. Where did we wander? right? First is running out. Let's diagram this bad boy. Here we go. So I'm going to draw my main line. Okay, there's my main line. What do I put first on my main line? Oh, I fall over. Tourist. Okay, then what do I put? After tourist, I put what? A line. I put a line. Okay, what goes after the line? Everybody besides Paige, what goes after the line? All right, you are there. Wandered. Okay, what goes underneath tourist on a slanted line? The. Let's be capitalized. Okay. Now I've got my prep phrases. I have two prepositional phrases that are modifying the same exact word. How do I diagram that? Does anybody know? What do you think, Marcus? Not quite. So Marcus said the and thing where it like splits the line. Is that what you were talking about? Not quite, because here's why. These are two separate prepositional phrases. Okay, in the split line one, we had one prepositional phrase that just had two objects of the preposition. But in this example, we have two separate prepositional phrases. So you guys, for our two separate prepositional phrases, you need two separate prepositional phrase lines. Just like that. Okay, then, to connect them together with this and, what you do is you do a dotted line like this.
Please excuse the interruption.
The word
Just a reminder, students, we are running on an adjusted schedule today. Those schedules are posted in
No, you guys can fill it in.
throughout the building,
That's
so
how you
please
draw
reference
that
those,
diagram.
especially if you're students who leave for open campus. Also, at the bell
Okay,
here,
don't
you can see the
forget to do
following
your
students in the
diagramming
office, and we ask that
worksheet
these
Monday.
students please bring their Chromebook with them. Lauren Brown, Nolan Cinco, Olivia Duncan, Chan Tabor, JJ Medina, Lorelei Pullman, Gavin Rook, Mary Shashikant, Destiny Trotter, Joseph Ziska, Nicholas Aquitiani, and AJ Attack, and Maria Moss and Michaela Mackey. All those students, stop by the office, here's the bell.